So, this is Between Two Priests, and I'm here today interviewing my favorite lawyer, Breanne Gordon.
Thank you. Happy to be here, I think.
So, you're a lawyer.
Yes.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to TCU for undergrad and then OU for law school.
How's bragging camp going?
Great.
Sorry, I'm a little off today because on my way, before I came here, I broke a mirror at my house. And I was thinking about that 7 years of bad luck. But I was hoping that maybe you could get me down to 5.
For the right price, anything.
For the right price.
Mhm.
So, recently Bree had a child.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. You have 2 children?
2 children, yes.
2 boys.
Yes.
Do you wish one of them had been a girl?
Honestly, no.
No?
No.
But you could have named one of them Sue. That's a good name for a lawyer's daughter, right?
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind if we go for a third.
So why were you not happy that why were you happy with 2 boys?
I think boys are easier
Mm.
than girls in many ways. It seems like, other than potty training.
Oh.
That's been kind of a nightmare, but
Yeah.
we won't go there.
Well, I don't want to get us in trouble with the Me Too movement, so I won't ask you why girls are easier. Or boys are easier.
Sounds good.
Do you think that if I, as a priest, went to law school and became a lawyer, that my title would be father-in-law?
Father-in-law Esquire.
Esquire.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered what Esquire is. That illegal? What does that term mean?
Usually you use that if you're a solo practitioner and not part of a firm. That way people know that you're a lawyer.
Oh, okay.
Which I recently learned.
So priests also have lots of titles. We're pretty good at that. Bree is also married to a lawyer, Randy. What's that like, having 2 lawyers in the same house?
No comment. To me, it's fine since I always win the arguments. You'd have to ask Randy about what it's like for him.
What about politics? Are you guys on the same page politically?
I would say
Wait a
no.
minute. I want to ask that question again and get a close-up of your face. So are you guys on the same page politically?
We agree to disagree on many things, but we have the important things in common.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
That's good. It's good to have the important things in common.
We need to build a wall.
Well, sorry,
And it has to be built quickly.
I hit the wrong button. I meant to hit. That's what I meant to hit. I meant to hit that one instead.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Well, so what we talk about in this, and this is the part where everyone usually turns off the video. So it's okay if you're not. Don't. I'm sure you'll do great though.
Thanks.
But what we talk about in this is vocation.
Okay.
And each week we say, remind folks, because hopefully people are watching this and thinking about themselves a little bit. There's something you're good at that the world doesn't value. What would that be, Bree?
I'm really good at puzzles.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like jigsaw puzzles.
And you can't make a living doing that?
Unfortunately not. I've tried, but kind of went south. That's how I ended up in law school.
Really?
Yeah.
And then, so there's something you're good at that no one will pay you to do. There's something you love doing, but you're no good at. What's that?
Singing in the car.
Singing in the car?
Only in the car, because you can drown yourself out.
Because if you were good at that, you could make
I could.
money doing that.
Yes.
So then there's something that you're no good and that nobody values, and that's a category we don't need to talk about.
Thank you.
And then there's something that you're good at and the world needs. And beyond that, there's something that you're good at that brings you joy,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's not just something the world values, but something the world needs. So it's where your deepest joy and the world's deep need meet.
Right.
That's vocation. So, what is your vocation?
I think my vocation is problem solving. And I guess it kind of relates back to the puzzle talent that you can't really make a living off of, but I like looking at problems and helping to find a way to solve them. And so one way I can do that and also make a living is by being a lawyer.
Wow. That might be the most, I don't want to say insightful answer because I don't want to insult everyone else, but that might be the most, that's definitely the most concise answer I've heard. Most of the time they have to kind of talk around it a little bit to find it.
I work on billable hours, so clients don't like when I get lengthy, so,
okay.
I gotta get right to the point.
This will probably be a short interview then. So problem solving, what obviously the world needs that.
I think so.
Yeah. Can you give me an example without breaking client confidentiality?
Sure. And I'll give an example that also is one of the areas of law that brings me joy as well. I do a lot of adoptions.
Okay.
And so I think most of those are through DHS. So it's where a child's parents, where their rights are terminated for whatever reason, and I will help the foster parents do the adoption of this child. So you have parents that are either wanting a child or wanting to help out a child, and I help them navigate that legal process, and I think it solves a lot of problems, and problems that the child has, whether they know it or not at the time.
So what moment in that process is the best?
The adoption hearing, especially here in Potawatomi County. I know the judges fairly well at this point, and court hearings are usually pretty, there's a lot of decorum and a lot of rules, and if your phone goes off, you're going to get in trouble, or people who aren't lawyers have to stand behind the bar. But for an adoption hearing, all of those rules go out the door. People can stand wherever, take photos, videos. You have kids, not just the kids being adopted, but family members just running around. I've had kids go up behind the judge and want to bang the gavel, and the judges just make it really fun and happy. So that's the best part.
So quick aside, I always hoped, I've seen a few movies about adoption, and they have that moment where it's the adoption court.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
It's just the final hearing.
Okay. But I always hoped it was actually like that, so that's nice that
It is.
But
It is.
to me, that's a great metaphor for how we understand baptism,
Mm-hmm.
because
Okay.
we're being adopted into God's family.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the ceremony.
It is a ceremony.
Generally, I think your opinion on it doesn't matter a whole lot. It's usually kids.
Yeah.
We're not saved by our understanding, and it's about grace and love, and so, and you see that in adoptions too.
I do. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes kids don't know what's going on, I assume.
Depending on age, yeah. They don't really. I mean, if it's a baby, obviously, or even if they're toddlers, they just think it's a fun day, that they're the center of attention, which they are.
But when they walk in there, they're not adopted officially.
No.
And when they walk out, they are.
They are.
So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we understand baptism.
Yeah, it's actually a really good metaphor. I'd never really thought about it like
Thanks.
that.
I'm glad we were able to make this about me and what I want to talk about.
Always.
So adoption, that's a very good metaphor, or not metaphor, that's a very good description of problem solving. And now a word from our sponsors. And we're back. So, do you think beyond adoptions, is there another kind of problem solving that
Yes.
you get to do
I do.
that you can talk about?
Oh, sure, yeah. I do a lot of estate planning, and so people come to me at really any stage of their life. A lot of people think that it should just be when you're older, but really once you start having kids, it's something you want to think about. And so they'll come to me and say, here are the things that I worry about will happen if I were to pass, or my spouse or my significant other, and how can we make it so that my family or my kids are protected and the things that I own go to the people I want to have them. And so there's lots of ways you can accomplish that, and we figure out the best way for them and help navigate through the legal system, because that's why we're here, really.
Right.
Attorneys, and get that in place. And then on the back end, if they are to pass, we'll sometimes people will request for us to help administer the estate to make sure everything goes as the person wished it to.
So both of your problem solving examples related back to children.
Yes.
Is that
I think that's on purpose. Maybe not consciously, but subconsciously.
why?
I haven't always wanted to have children. That was like a decision later in life, but I've always enjoyed being around children, and a lot of the causes that I've volunteered for in the past, really from high school to now, have centered around kids and families. And so I do a lot of other things in my job that relate to businesses or, people suing each other, and that's fine. I'm helping problem solve there as well. But with adoptions and estate planning, those are the two that really bring me joy, because they involve kids and families.
So maybe an aside to problem solving, you want to make the lives of children better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a pretty important thing. That's something we need in the world.
I think so. And yeah, kids, it's hard not to care about kids, I think, at least for me. And because they don't really have any, at least when they're young, they don't really have any control over what happens to them, really. Or, whether that's in an adoption case or if their parents or guardians were to pass. You want that secure system in place, because I think kids are the happiest and healthiest and have the best mental health when they're in a secure situation. And so when they know who's taking care of them and that they will be taken care of, then they can just focus on being kids.
Instead of raising younger siblings or trying to stay alive.
Yes.
Or
I've read a lot recently about how childhood trauma affects you and affects your body physically and genetically, and how that can be passed on through generations. And so I think, and can cause all kinds of health, both physical health and mental health problems throughout your life. And so I think if we focus a lot of our time and energy, as far as nonprofits or churches, on early childhood and trying to prevent the trauma from happening, it could solve a lot of the problems down the line, from mental health issues, incarceration, drug use, and then physical ailments. People who experience childhood trauma are more likely to have cancer or diabetes or other physical illnesses. And so I think maybe has kind of backed up my belief of why it's so important to focus my energies on kids.
So obviously a very smart person, and as a parishioner here, if there are any priests watching this show, Episcopal priests,
Mhm.
how do you think, what should churches or ministers, or what should churches be doing? What could churches do to help? How could we focus on children more?
I think something that Emmanuel does really well right now, particularly because we have the wonderful Beth Canada, is have a really robust and involved youth group or youth activities. I think that would be helpful for kids who don't necessarily have the parental involvement or mentorship, or just their parents don't have the ability financially to really put in, I don't know what word I'm trying to think of, who may not have the time or ability to really focus on the child and their needs, and then making sure that that person who's in charge of the youth has the training to recognize signs of trauma, or to know when a referral needs to be made, maybe to bring in some mental health or someone to help with groceries or whatever the problem may be. So I think that's really important. I think Emmanuel does that well because we're super lucky with the staff that we have. I think if you offer other outreach programs like we do, like the Sack Lunch program or Bob or the Christmas dinner, paying special attention to the kids who are coming, especially kids who are coming repeatedly for those services, and seeing if we can connect them to resources in the community. And also, again, as Emmanuel does pretty well, teaming up with different nonprofits in the community to make sure we have those relationships. You know, the person who we have their cell phone number, like Travis, to give him a call and say, hey, I know a kid who'd be really great for the community renewal after school program.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. I think the church itself doesn't have to do it all, but we need to have connections with the people who
Right.
can. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I grew up in a denomination that was very separated from society and the community, because they're the world and we're the good guys, and
Mhm.
and I appreciate the Episcopal Church's fun idea of just diving right in.
I agree.
Thanks for providing all those compliments to Emmanuel Episcopal Church, 501 North Broadway in Shawnee, Oklahoma. But
So are you gonna send cash or check
Yeah.
for that? We can edit that out.
that's a
right?
good idea. Yeah. So, did you speaking of mentorship, you recently became a mentor.
I did.
Can you tell our viewers about that?
Sure. Well, our wonderful and talented parishioner, I guess is the correct term, Leanne Henry Wright, came up with the idea for this wonderful idea to celebrate Justice Ginsburg and all of everything she's done for women, in her work and the inspiration that she was for so many of us. And she brought me in to help plan that, and I organized getting some local attorneys and judges together to judge the essays that were written by middle school and high school girls about their role model, their female role model, or if they don't have a role model, what they would want that to look like. So I got to help judge those and read the essays, which was great. And then on the day of the event, I got paired with a mentor who is one of the winners of the essay contest. We got to eat lunch together, walk to the courthouse, and take a big group photo. And then we got to be the first to see Leanne's exhibit at her art studio. And we exchanged contact information, and we're just going to keep up, you know.
So what's the goal of the program?
The goal is to pair up girls with professional women in the community and to tell each other our goals for the next year, Because as Leanne so brilliantly pointed out, not only can the mentors learn from us, but we can learn from our mentees. And I think that's really important. I can't remember who said this. I feel like someone at church said this at one point, but it's important to maintain friendships with people who are younger than you and older than you, because you get so many different perspectives.
Right.
And so I think that I can learn a lot from my mentee. And we had a great conversation. I was so impressed with all the girls.
So it's partly to inspire young girls to dream big.
Yes.
You can do whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which Justice Ginsburg is famous for. But
Yes, she is. More than most, probably. I don't know how she did it all, but she did.
So, any concluding remarks?
I would just say that I'm proud of our church for what we do to serve the community, particularly children and families, and the staff here. And I love what I do. If anyone wants to know more about it, they can feel free to contact me. And if you need a problem solver, I'm here to help.
Well,
And that's it.
thanks for being on our show, Bree.
You're welcome.
This is what Sunday school looks in the era of COVID.
I don't mind.
And after we turn this off, we can talk about that free legal advice I need.
Okay.